Good evening and welcome to Metro Focus. I'm Rafael P. Roman. Today, more fallout from that controversial GOP memo that alleges surveillance abuses at the FBI and Justice Department. In a tweet over the weekend, President Trump claimed the memo, which alleges that the FBI improperly obtained a surveillance order on Trump's foreign policy advisor, Carter Page, vindicated him in the entire Russia probe. Quote, "This memo totally vindicates Trump in probe. But the Russian witch hunt goes on and on. There was no collusion and there was no obstruction." The central claim of the memo, unclassified by President Trump on Friday, is that the order to spy on Trump's foreign policy advisor, Carter Page, was improper because it used a Democratic Party finance dossier as a, quote, essential part of the warrant application. But Republican Trey Gowdy, who was involved in drafting the memo, rejected the president's claim that the document vindicates him in the investigation.
The memo has no impact on the Russia probe.
Not to me, it doesn't, and I was pretty integrally involved in the drafting of it. There is a Russia investigation without a dossier. So to the extent the memo deals with the dossier and the FISA process, the dossier has nothing to do with the meeting at Trump Tower. The dossier has nothing to do with an email sent by Cambridge Analytica. The dossier really has nothing to do with George Papadopoulos' meeting in Great Britain. It also doesn't have anything to do with obstruction of justice. So there's going to be a Russia probe even without a dossier.
Democrats, meanwhile, say the GOP memo is incomplete and partisan. Dick Durbin, the second highest-ranking Democrat in the Senate, warned Republicans against using the memo as a justification to fire Bob Mueller or anyone involved in the Russia investigation.
But to say that that's the end of the investigation, that this is all that Donald Trump needs to fire Rosenstein or to fire Bob Mueller, I'll just tell you, this could precipitate a constitutional crisis. If the House Republicans believe they've set the stage for this president to end this investigation, they are basically saying that in America, one man is above the law, and that's not a fact.
And from the nation's capital to the state capital, Mayor Bill de Blasio is in Albany today for an annual appearance that's become something of a tradition, giving the mayor's critics in the legislature an opportunity to question him on their own turf. This year's budget promises to become the latest flashpoint in the battle between the mayor and the governor over funding for the MTA. Jenna Flanagan is with Metro columnist Ellis Hannigan, who's been covering these issues. Jenna?
Thanks, Raph. So, Ellis, first let's start with this whole memo situation. Now, of course, there's the whole backstory as to how we even got to this memo, but basically, what does it mean?
Partisan cacophony. How about that as a term?
Okay, that's a good term.
Right? I mean, we can go through and pick out all the technical arguments about the FISA court and exactly what showings were made, and and we only have, by the way, only a small part of the information about that because
4 pages.
That memo is a distillation through Republican House staffers' eyes of a much larger document. But here's what lingers, I think. Mm-hmm. It's that the House committee, right, is not functioning the way these intelligence committees typically and hopefully function, which is in some kind of bipartisan way of providing some reasonable standard of oversight over our intelligence agencies. What this has devolved into is just a rancid partisan shooting match. And so last week we had the Republican piece of it. This week we're getting the Democratic piece of it. And good luck finding the truth in there somewhere.
Well, of course, even with the infighting between the two parties, we're seeing a lot of infighting within the executive branch itself, and with the president seemingly at war with his own FBI.
This is the one where the Republican president, who appointed the Republican Attorney General and his top deputies, is now going to war with those very people and the FBI, whose director he appointed. Yes, that's what we're talking about.
But could this fighting between the White House and the FBI lead us to a constitutional crisis?
Well, it's certainly ugly. I mean, it's a very strange situation where the president has chosen to take on this war, and there are some constitutional implications there, and maybe even some larger ones when it comes to the future of the special counsel, right? Who is investigating the very president who is now hinting, threatening, winking that maybe he's going to do something to reel in those people who are investigating him. Talking about constitutional crises, I'd focus on that one first.
All right, and then of course, when it comes to what may or may not happen with the Mueller investigation, it's now not necessarily Mueller who's in the crosshairs, but I understand actually the attorney who is filling in for
Rod Rosenstein.
Yeah, Rod Rosenstein,
right.
yes.
He's the number 2 guy.
The number
in the
2
Justice
guy,
Department.
yes.
Right, because the Attorney General, don't forget, had to recuse himself because he
Yes.
had been so personally involved in this stuff. So again, all Republican appointees, right? These are all people that the president put into these positions. But one after one after one, he keeps turning on them, which is why some critics have raised this term slow motion Saturday night massacre. Remember back in the Nixon days on that Saturday night when he was a wholesale fire.
Yeah.
Here we're kind of getting the drip, drip, drip version of it. And Rosenstein seems to be the one who's in the crosshairs next.
Well, of course, with so much vicious partisan back and forth right now in Washington, we do have another budget deadline that's going to be coming up. And do you see another shutdown looming?
Listen, it's dangerous to make predictions because there is so much emotion in this. But I would say, as you and I are sitting right here, I would say it seems less likely than it did last time. I think some Dems feel burned by the experience a couple of weeks ago. I think that the DACA kids still hang in the balance, but at the moment, subject of course to frequent revisions, at the moment it looks like we're going to get another delay and it's just going to get pushed down the road a bit.
So, of course, this weekend, a lot of Americans, or at least perhaps Americans not in the New York City area, came together to watch the big game, the Super Bowl. But before the game started, the president chose to tweet out about people standing for the national anthem. Now, at this moment where we have national unity around something, why would he choose to bring up a divisive issue?
Jenna, everything is politicized today. Okay, certainly the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah,
The president, by the way, decided not to do the traditional interview. And past presidents and past Super Bowls have sat for a brief back and forth with a journalist during the Super Bowl. President decided not to do that, but no, cultural wars go everywhere.
But even to the Super Bowl, I mean, and then even just watching some of the way the fans were tweeting about the whole thing back and forth, it seemed like there was a lot of politics that was brought to the game itself. And then, of course, there's the fact that the NFL has seen a decrease in its core audience.
Yeah, and it's not going to stop because get ready for the debate about which of the Philadelphia Eagles are going to go for the White House victory march, right? Will they show up there or will they not show up there? Watch out for that.
All right, so it just keeps going. Pivoting a little bit to a different back and forth, the mayor of New York is...
more dysfunction.
More dysfunction, exactly.
Okay.
It's actually in Albany, what could be at least New York's epicenter of dysfunction.
Okay.
And he's there testifying before a Senate committee about the budget, and of course is going to be looking for more money for the MTA. Now, there's been a lot of tension between who's going to be responsible for the MTA. Is it the city or is it going to be the state? How do you see this playing out?
Two things. First of all, let's remember that historically the state has taken major responsibility for capital expenditures in the subway, right? Buying the new cars and fixing the tracks and the signal systems. That big infrastructure spending has normally been borne largely by the state. The governor's trying to get the mayor to pay half of it, the city taxpayers to pay half of it. Now, so they're at war over that right now. If you look back at the previous rounds of this war, you have to say that generally, Governor Cuomo has outmaneuvered Mayor de Blasio, and I think we might be seeing that happen again.
So there's a chance that the city could end up with a bigger portion of the MTA bill than it was expecting.
Yes, bigger than historically the city has paid. Maybe not half in the end, but yeah, don't bet against Andrew Cuomo when it comes to vicious infighting with Mayor de Blasio.
All right, well, listen, Ellis, thank you again for joining us and giving us some insight as to what we can expect from our leaders so early on in the year.
Albany, Washington, you choose.
I think that's a difficult choice, perhaps a Sophie's choice for a lot of us here in New York, but thank you again for joining us.
Hey, good to see you.